This is a bit of a love letter to the Sony A7S III. This is the camera that allowed me to take my side hustle and my passion for photo and video work and turn that into my main income source. It gave me a career, if you will, and for that, I'll always be thankful. If you're a long-time watcher of this channel, you know that I have a bit of a mantra or a slogan, if you will, and it applies to anything visually creative, and that is, if it looks good, it is good. This can apply to photography, filmmaking, but also anything from pottery to canvas painting. So during this little love letter, you will see a bit of B-roll, and all B-roll will have been shot on the A7S III. Sometimes we can get a little bit caught up in specs, and at the end of the day, specs on paper only mean so much. It's when those specs are actually translated into good image quality that they start to mean something. So I don't want you just to take my word for it. Take it for what it is. Take it at face value and see if you think it looks good, then it is good. The proof's in the pudding. This camera's abilities and performance have allowed me to execute things and execute shots that I didn't think were possible at the time. This camera came out in October 2020. That is over 2.5 years ago at the time of recording this video. It's safe to say that when this camera was announced, it was probably one of the most anticipated cameras of perhaps the last decade. The A7S II had been out forever and a day, and it was more than overdue for an update. So when they got up on stage and they announced this camera could do 4K all the way up to 120 frames a second with 10-bit 422 and full autofocus tracking across all modes, it was pretty groundbreaking, and a lot of people got very excited about this camera. In a way, this camera has really shaped how we see video in all different cameras today, and if a camera brand released the exact same camera specs in a camera today, that camera would still be given its flowers, and for good reason. So like I said, this camera came out in October 2020, and in camera terms, 2.5 years is a pretty long time, and is probably due for an update, or even been discontinued because of the FX6. But either way, I'm here to tell you that in 2023, the A7S III is still an awesome purchase. I've used plenty of different cameras from all the major brands over the last 6 years, and for the price, I can honestly say nothing really comes close to competing with the A7S III. The only camera that I personally would consider instead of the A7S III would be the A1, but that's not really fair because for the price of an A1, you could buy 2 A7S IIIs. About 6 months ago, I moved on from the A7S III as my main A cam in favor of the FX6, which this has been shot on right now. But the A7S III still holds an integral part in my kit. The A7S III is obviously still my go-to for things like YouTube vlogging, B cam in interview setups, any slider or time-lapse shots. I'm also going to use this for all my gimbal work, my underwater work, and one of the main things is intricate B-roll. The A7S III's form factor allows me to get B-roll that I just can't get with an FX6. A lot of the time, I like to use the viewfinder, have it up against my eye, and use that as an extra point of contact as I kind of dive into a subject to get just unique sort of shots. There's just something special about having a lightweight powerhouse of a camera in the palm of your hand that has brilliant image performance, incredible autofocus, and a beautiful EVF, as well as highly usable IBIS and really impressive dynamic range. The FX6 is a brilliant camera, and that's a video for another day. But the A7S III allows me to do things that the FX6 can't. Just like a Defender wouldn't beat a McLaren P1 around the Nürburgring, sometimes you just need the right tools for the job. Sometimes you need to be quick and agile, and sometimes having that off-roader is absolutely necessary. So obviously cameras like the FX6 are going to win out in a lot of categories like interviews, handheld, doco shoots, anything that's got a high production value or requires a crew. But if you find yourself in an environment where you need to adapt rapidly and regularly to your conditions, the A7S III's style of camera is going to be much more beneficial. If you need to get yourself from situations like getting intricate handheld B-roll and then getting onto a tripod, then balance on a gimbal, then hard mounting onto a car, and then getting into an underwater housing all in a matter of seconds or minutes, a camera like the A7S III is going to do that way quicker and is going to be my choice every day of the week. If you're someone who is where I was before I got my A7S III, someone who's trying to turn a side hustle into a career, you're serious about pursuing this. You're someone that doesn't necessarily see the benefits or have the cash to buy an FX6, and maybe it doesn't even suit your style of shooting. You're someone who understands the benefits of 10-bit 422 4K at up to 120 frames a second with clean 12,800 ISO. This this might just be the camera for people like you. And respectfully, if none of that camera mumbo jumbo really made any sense to you, at this point, probably no camera's really gonna make that big of a difference. You should probably be focusing less on the gear and more on the craft. This is gonna sound super lame, but it's not often that you find a piece of gear that you genuinely feel connected to and you feel like it's enabling you to do more than sometimes you're even capable of. I remember the first time I ever shot with this camera, I got home, I put the images on the computer and my mind was just blown at the dynamic range. I remember thinking to myself, man, the client is gonna love this. I truly believe that when all is said and done, at the end of my career in, who knows, 5 months or 35 years, I truly believe that I'll look back and go, the reason I got to where I ended up, a lot of that started with the A7S3. Sometimes you have that light bulb moment, that turning the corner, or I don't know what other metaphors they have, but a lot of those corners were turned while using the A7S3. A lot of light bulbs went off, a lot of things were learnt, and a lot of things have now been, well, attempted to master because of the A7S3. And I know it sounds lame, I know it sounds corny, but I truly believe that. It's a wicked camera. I'm not telling you to buy it, but the B-roll speaks for itself. This camera, this is for any travel content creator, for any social media menace, bloggers or tickety-tockers. You name it. This camera is an absolute powerhouse and you'd be wrong to write it off due to its age or its 12 megapixel sensor. This is a highly capable photo camera, and yes, I said it, 12 megapixels is more than enough for any social media shooting. In the camera game, there's not a lot of things that when you purchase them, they allow you to do a multitude of new things. The majority of things will allow you to do one thing really well or this and that a little bit better. But this A7S3, at the time when I purchased it and I upgraded from an A7 III, it just opened a whole new world of opportunities for me. Me and this camera, we've seen a few things and we've created a few things, and I owe it a lot. We've got a lot more to see together, we've got a lot more to create together. So, here's to the A7S III, the places we've been and the places we'll go. Bye. I really need to buy a teleprompter. This is way too hard. Just doing notes, memorizing, speaking, saying, just words. It's too hard. I need a teleprompter. Someone sponsor me with a teleprompter, please. I love you. Bye.